Dr. Aditi Paul is a dynamic scholar, seasoned educator, and visionary change maker at the intersection of technology, communication, and immigration empowerment. Dr. Paul holds dual PhDs in communication and media studies from Bowling Green State University and Michigan State University, where her pioneering research explored how user-centered technologies shape human relationships and social behavior. Her academic journey began with a gold medal master's degree in computer science from the prestigious St. College, a foundation that continues to inform her interdisciplinary approach to research and innovation. With over a decade of experience as a tenured professor at Pace University, Dr. Paul has not only shaped the minds of hundreds of students, but also contributed groundbreaking research on online dating, social media, and digital intimacy. Her work has been featured in major outlets such as NBC News, Newsweek, Business Insider, and The Washington Post, and she has presented her findings at over 25 academic and industry events, including TEDx Bushwick. Beyond the classroom and conference stage, Dr. Paul is the founder of Dr. Paul and Company, where she channels her lived immigration experience to help highly skilled professionals navigate the complex EB1 and EB2 green card process. Her initiative has educated over 5,000 immigrants and built a thriving online community of 38,000 plus members, marking her as a leading advocate for equitable immigration pathways. Her accolades are as numerous as they are impressive. Receipts of the Dyson Summer Research Award and the Keenan Faculty Development Award, 3 patent holder in AI-based technologies, and multiple-time medalist in national academic and debate competitions. Dr. Paul continues to shape the future of immigration tech, blending empathy, expertise, and evidence-based strategy to empower aspiring change makers across the globe. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make welcome Dr. Aditi Paul as she takes us on this keynote message. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Grace. And what's Annie? Grace, who helped you write this introduction? I have questions. That was amazing. Thank you so much. I never saw myself the way you have described myself. So I really do appreciate this initiative as well as your kindness. I really do appreciate that. I didn't know I was going to be in a room with 115 people. So thank you, folks, for joining. It's a Saturday. Is it 4 p.m. where you are? Can people put it in the chat? What's the time where you are right now? This is going to be an interactive one. This is not going to be a lecture. I want to have a conversation with you. So I'm going to ask folks to mute themselves and talk to me. What's the time there? 4:10 p.m. Are most people based in Nigeria over here? Yes, no? Where are you based? Can you put that location? I'll put my location. I'm right outside of New York City, called Jersey City. But where are you tuning in from? Oh, mostly from Nigeria. Professor Ifeoma Elizabeth has given me military time. That's how you know she's a professor. Or I'm sorry, I messed up your gender. I apologize. Solanke from Igbinedion University. Time here is 4 p.m. in Nigeria. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining from wherever you're coming in from. With a show of hands, how many of you are students here? Let's see. Who are students here? Okay. Okay. Right. Mostly students. Yetunde, Anoyo, Musa, Hussein, Tayo, Michael, Grace, Zainab, All right. People who are clapping, I'm assuming you're also students. Okay. Mostly, most students. Okay. PhD student. I am a student. That's wonderful. Okay. So now I want to know where you are in your student journey. Are you a bachelor's? Are you a master's? Are you a PhD? The reason I'm asking is because I'll cater my conversation accordingly, because I just don't want to give you blanketed information. This is what you need to do. This is what's going to happen. Okay, mostly PhD students. Okay, is Watsani still here and Grace still here?
Yeah, I'm still on the call.
Okay, Watsani, can you give me a feel of like the audience and what are their expectations from this call? Am I correct in understanding that they are looking at a future of coming to the US for education, or what's the intent here?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's the crux of the audience that are here, and yeah, majority of the people in the call are from Nigeria, but of course we have several other countries. Yeah, I'm yet to get the updated data of the people that registered for the webinar, but generally the audience here are looking forward to tips and strategies on how to navigate the EB1 visa process.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. I'm an early career researcher looking for postdoc opportunity. I'm a lecturer joining from South Africa. Hi. Um, Thank you for joining. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. I'm going to give you three resources today, but I want to spend the majority of our time having an interaction because I moved to the US in 2010. It is 2025, so I've been in the US for 15 years right now. And what I have realized about US immigration is it is impossible to read about US immigration and understand everything about it. There's always an if, then, else, but, conditions apply. There is a clause over here. There is a restriction over there. So all of those intricacies I want to get around today, and that can only happen through conversation. So that's why I'm encouraging you to. Um, okay, all right, there you go. So the first thing that I want to do is understand what is your intent. Now, if you are coming to the US, you can come in two ways. Right? The number one way to come over here is what I call non-immigrant intent. So I'm going to write this down. You can also make notes about this versus immigrant intent. Again, I should tell you that I am not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. I would always encourage you to reach out to immigration attorneys in the US. Fun fact, if you reach out to universities in the US who have law schools, they also have a pro bono, usually they have a pro bono office where students who are training to be lawyers will give advice for free. So if you are strapped for cash, if you do not like whatever the Nigerian currency is to the USD currency. For me, I'm Indian, so there was a huge difference between rupees and US dollars. So I could not really cough up $150 just to ask one question to a lawyer. So if you want some of that pro bono advice, I would encourage you to look into any university. Just Google universities in the US. Look for like pro bono law clinics. And get on a call with somebody and ask them to step you through that. They should be able to do that. So that's a pro tip that I can leave you with. Now, when you're talking about folks over here who want to come to the US for postdoc positions, right? I see some. I'm an early career researcher. I want to come here as a postdoc. A lot of y'all are PhD students. For me, your journey is going to be different because I came to the US as a PhD student, but you're already getting your PhDs. So you might want to take another route, unless you want to get two PhDs. By the way, I only have one PhD. I transferred from Bowling Green State University to Michigan State University, and I completed my degree from there. So I came here on an F1 visa. Are people kind of familiar with like things like F1? Like if I say F1 visa, is that familiar, or am I talking in complete jargon? Okay. Yeah, usually people know about like F1 visa. F1 visa is a student visa. So I came on an F1 visa. So I got my PhD over here. So if you're a master's student, maybe you want to come to the US on an F1 visa and get your another master's or another PhD, whatever it is. But if you are a postdoc, again, I'm not a lawyer, but usually there is this visa called a J1 visa. Okay. Now, J1 visa is it's an exchange visitor visa. This falls under the cap of non-immigrant intent. Now, the word immigrant is used very differently in popular culture versus in immigration official terms. For folks who come on an F1, for folks who come on J1, you are not an immigrant. As a matter of fact, US will use the word alien for you. Now, there's a difference between being an immigrant in the legal sense versus being an immigrant as it's loosely used in popular culture. When you come to the US on a J visa, or when you come to the US on an F visa, when you go to the US embassy to get that visa stamp, they want to know that you're going to come back to your home country, that you don't want to stay in the US. You're not showing immigrant intent, that you don't want to immigrate to the US. You're going to go there, have a good time, learn something, and then come back. So that's a non immigrant intent visa versus things like EB1. Okay, those are immigrant intent visas that you're applying for that visa with the intent of immigrating permanently to the US. People, is this bifurcation clear to you? What is immigrant intent versus what is non-immigrant intent visa? Okay, perfect. You can make notes of this and then you can Google. Of course, ChatGPT is there. They'll be able to explain that to you. Okay. Now, for non-immigrant intent visas, J1 and F1, you usually need a sponsor. Right? So, for example, if you are a PhD and if you want to come to the US, you need a university to sponsor that visa for you. So, for example, one of my friends who came to the US to work in NIH. People are familiar with NIH, National Institute of Health. Yeah, with if you say that you want to come to the US on a postdoc, let me see who said that. I'm gonna bring you on. Toy Solanki. I'm a lecturer in environmental and public health microbiology with interest in pollution studies and future interest in environmental health. Seeking postdoc research link. Okay, so Toye, can you unmute yourself and tell me what kind of research have you done till now to look at these postdoc opportunities? If you're comfortable unmuting yourself and sharing. Toye Solanke.
Yeah. Hello.
Yep. So tell me what kind of research.
Can you hear me now?
Huh? Say that one more time.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. We have done pollution work on the BV effluent and then some waste dump. I've done work on waste dump. Then I just completed a research work on the textile effluent, doing on bioremediation work on textile effluent from local textile industries.
So when you are looking at postdoc research opportunities, what kind in the US, what kind of avenues have you explored?
No, I've actually not explored the US. I'm open to anywhere in the world.
Oh, you're moving there. Okay. So maybe I can talk to somebody. I'm also a postdoc. I have ongoing research work on digital media and digital entrepreneurship. Anyone in the audience who is particularly looking at the US to do a postdoc and has done some research to look into these positions, can you put it in the chat, or because there's so many people who have raised their hand, so I don't know how to discern. So I'm going to lower everybody's hand. But if anyone is coming to the US or intending to come to the US on a postdoc and you have already started doing your research looking at postdoc opportunities, can you raise your hand now? Okay, Henry. Okay, great. Henry, so take me through the process of you looking at postdoc opportunities? Where are you looking at? What does the fine print say? Give me some details around that. I'm looking for research fellowship in sustainability. Okay, so there are places that you can look at postdoc opportunities in the US. And what you will realize is they need to sponsor for your, yes, highereds.com, even Indeed works, Indeed.com works. More often than not, when you are getting a postdoc, you are going to look into postdoc opportunities in one of these platforms, and they need to sponsor your J1 visa. Okay. Can I have some real conversations with you? Like give you the reality of what's going on in the US right now, especially? Okay. If you are working as a postdoc, your income is going to be significantly lower than the average person makes in the US. So when you are applying for a postdoc, right, it's not just coming to the US, it's being safe when you come to the US. And I'm talking about this from my own experience, as well as what I've seen in the market, what's happening in my conversations with immigration attorneys, in my conversations with ex-visa officers. So all of that I'm summarizing and I'm giving you the high level view. We are still on the non-immigrant intent bucket. We have not touched EB1 yet. I will touch EB1, but I want you to know what other options you have. Because coming to the US temporarily is such a big task. Imagine coming to the US permanently. Has anybody applied for a US visa, period? Like for a, have you ever applied for like a visitor visa? Has anybody been to the US? Okay. Katora, you have been to the US? Okay. So you remember how grueling that process was. It's hard to get a visa in the US. Okay. Now, if you have to come to the US as a visitor, so coming to the US, visas are just hard to get, period. Okay. Now, if you're trying to come to the US as a permanent resident, they are going to do all those checks and then some. So if you truly want to come to the US, what I'm trying to make the point over here is you may want to entertain the idea of first getting a temporary visa and then migrating on to a permanent visa, or coming to the US on a non-immigrant visa and then transitioning into an immigrant visa, rather than like doing a complete long jump and going to permanent visa. Right? So within the temporary visa, you need somebody to sponsor you. Now, if you're coming as a postdoc, the sponsoring entity is going to usually be a university and a person in a lab who's bringing you on as a postdoc. Now, those labs are usually funded by national institutes. Right? NSF is going to get a grant, and then they are going to fund these other labs. Now, under the current administration, a lot of those funds are being cut. So, for example, one of my good friends, he got the job as an associate director for education at University of North Carolina in Charlotte. He got the job offer. All the paperwork was done. 2 weeks before he got the job, his position was cut because the Department of Education is being defunded right now. So if you are coming to the US, I want you to keep this in mind, that number one, postdoc positions are extremely underpaid. If you are coming by yourself, living on a $60,000 budget in Washington, D.C., if you're working in NIH, is very different than coming with a family of 4 and trying to survive on $60,000 in Washington, D.C. I want you to keep that in mind, right? Number two is your lab's capacity to pay you $60,000, however low it is determined by the funding that they are getting. So if you are getting that postdoc position, yes, it's very exciting to get these positions when things seem to be stacked up against you. But I want you to come from a place of calmness and ask the person who's giving you this position, that for how many years do you have funding? In other terms, you have to safeguard yourself and understand how many years can this person pay you. The last thing you want is uprooting your life from Nigeria, moving to the US, and 5 months after, you hear that the funding is cut up and now you're out of sorts. Is that making sense to you? So I want you to be very grounded in your approach. And I'm saying this completely knowing that I have lived in the US for 15 years. Back in 2010, when I was trying to come to the US, this looked like a sea of opportunities, and I just couldn't come. I couldn't wait to come to the US. So all of these problems or these hypothetical situations that my seniors were telling me, they were like, "Oh yeah, I'll figure that out when I come to the US." Like that's okay. But you want to have that calibrated mindset from now, right? So that's about J1 visa. So non-immigrant intent we have done. Now let's say you're coming to the US on an immigrant intent visa, that you're moving to the US permanently. You want to come to the US permanently. You can do that. Now I have good news for people who are PhDs in the crowd. US immigration, the entity that decides whether they will give you this petition that approves your permanent residency in the US, it's called USCIS, United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. Those folks who give out these permanent residency visas under these talent categories that we're going to talk about today, called EB1, it stands for Employment-Based First Preference. They like PhDs. This category of visa, I'm going to give you a link over here, and I want you to study these. Okay. A lot of this I'm going to touch upon today, but we don't have time to like really dig deeper into it. So I'm going to drop this link over here so you can follow along. Yeah, I don't have a slide deck. I'm going to give you all these resources so you can study them on your own. So employment-based first preference means that out of 100 people, USCIS is going to decide who gets first preference to come to the US permanently. That's called employment-based first preference, EB1. Now, when they adjudicate or when they judge these cases, they will look at, let's say I'm going to take somebody from the crowd over here. Let's say Abu Bakr Hassana. Like Abu Bakr, are you here? Yes, no? Maybe he is here. Yeah, one day you had a question? I see your hand, right? You one day? Not sure why her hand is raised. I'm going to lower it. Yeah. So out of all the people, they are going to give you first preference to come to the US. Now, for you to get this visa called EB1, it is a pathway to get a green card. You need to demonstrate that you satisfy 3 of these 10 criteria at a minimum. But we are going to get into the minutia of that in a little bit. But that is essentially what EB1 is. However, I was a little confused why folks from Nigeria are looking at EB1. So the reason why I talk so much about EB1 is because for folks who are born in India, in the US, they cannot get their green card through any other means right now, which does more often than not. They cannot get a green card in the US because the wait time is so long. So that's why Indian nationals who are born in India, are in the US, want to get a green card, are looking at EB1. However, US immigration rules are different for different nationalities. So whatever rules I have to abide by as an Indian, you, somebody who's born in Nigeria, may not have to abide by that. Right? So if you truly are in Nigeria, want to come to the US permanently through immigrant intent, you do not just have EB1 as an option. You also have something called EB2 NIW. Has anybody heard of this term, EB2 NIW? Yes, no? Okay, so you've heard about EB2 NIW. So I'm going to share my screen to show you what the difference is. Okay. So like I was talking about, that you have to know where you are on this spectrum. So for example, I came to the US as a student. So I came as an F1 student. Then I went to OPT, optional practical training. Or if you are a STEM student, I was not a STEM student, then you have STEM OPT. Okay. Then I got my H1B, which is still a temporary work visa. You can, if you're coming in the US as a postdoc, this is going to be J1. Okay. Still in the non-immigrant intent temporary work authorization side of the spectrum. But then you want to move to permanent work authorization or become a permanent resident in the US. In other words, what we were talking about, immigrant intent. For Indian nationals, what happened was EB2, employment-based second preference, folks who have a master's degree who are working as directors, PhDs, etc. This used to work for us. But the wait time for getting a green card, I'm not going to get too much into the visa rules, etc. This is excruciatingly high. It's 150 years right now. That's why we can't just go to a green card through EB2. We are looking at other options like EB1. But for folks like Nigerians who are born in Nigeria, who want to move to the US, an EB2 NIW is still a feasible option. So while we cannot talk about EB2 NIW today because we really don't have time, I would encourage you to look at EB2 NIW as also an option. Is that clear? In fact, I'm going to drop a slide deck in the chat. An overview of what EB2 NIW looks like. If you go to my YouTube channel, you're going to see this person whose slide deck I'm about to share with you. She gave an entire talk on EB2 NIW. So I'm going to give this so you can take it. This is directly from an immigration attorney in the US who gave an extremely well thought out presentation. So I'm going to put this in the chat. This is for you to download it, keep it on yourself. Okay, so this is, and Vadzani, I'm going to send you all these links in a separate email so that you can send it to people as well. So if you go to my YouTube channel, you will see that this person, Helen Partlow, who has given this slide deck, she has talked you through this presentation as well. Okay, so I want you to know the reason I'm telling you all of this is because, yes, you have come to this lecture to learn about EB1, but EB1 is not the goal. Coming to the US is the goal. So I am exposing you to as many number of feasible options that you have to come to the US as possible. I hope I'm being able to communicate that to you, that EB1 is great, but you also have other options. Okay, NIW stands for National Interest Waiver. Now, for Indian folks, EB2 NIW still does not work for us. We have to go for EB1. Unless you have $1 million and you go for EB5, I don't want to talk about that because I really don't know too much, but that is another route that you can take. Like if you have $1 million that you want to invest in an American business, you can get your green card through that. No, I'm not talking about Trump's gold card. It does not exist. It's just Trump being Trump. So if you want to come to the US, EB5 is also an option. But for us, EB1 is usually the only feasible option for Indians. That's the reason why Vadzani reached out to me to talk about EB1, because that's what I talk about all day, every day. And that's how I got my green card as well. So my journey was going from F1 to OPT to H1B to regular EB2 to then EB1 to then getting a green card. And this entire journey took me 12 years to complete. So it's a hard journey. I want you to know that about the United States, that yes, it is called as the country of immigrants, but my God, it makes immigration so hard for people. It's really, really hard to migrate to the US. I also want to give you another real talk. I did not know about this, but there are statistics out there which show how visa approvals, non-immigrant intent visa approvals, like an B1, B2 if you want to come to the US, or an F1, disproportionately more number of denials for African scholars, students, and visitors. This is data. I am not making this up. You can look it up. You will, there's this person, her name is Duden Freeman. She is an ex Department of State officer, the person who you go and you give an interview and they decide if you get a visa or not. She was one of them. And there are case studies which show that I don't remember the numbers, but 36% of visa applications from African countries get rejected compared to like 15% or 20% from other countries. So you want to know these facts and then make a plan that, okay, I know that these are the obstacles that are there. I need to be prepared. I need to know all the strategies that are at my disposal. Don't be like me, because I was very hopeful through this process. And I was very juvenile through this process. But as you mature through the process, you know the reality. Any questions so far that I can answer before we move into the EB1 side of the story? Okay. All right. Chidebelu, I see what your comment is, and I'll talk about that as well. Okay, so now we have understood what is immigrant visa, non-immigrant intent visa. Under non-immigrant intent visa for postdocs, you have your J1s. For students who are masters, want to come as a PhD, you have the F1 visa. There is also an O1 visa, but we're not going to talk about that. Now let's talk about what it takes to prepare for these immigrant intent visas, that is EB2 NIW and EB1. Okay, so now I'm going to share another PDF with you. This is a document that I had created for folks who want to come to the US as a student, and they want to know what can they do from day one to prepare themselves. So you can make a copy of that, download it, etc. Okay, I'm going to give you the overview of like what you need to do. So over here, like I've mentioned, these are the criteria or the categories for an EB1 visa. And this is all you need to check. But to get to these criteria, you need to do work, and you need to do consistent amount of work. So I've given you what are the to-dos. This is only for students, right? If you have come to the US as a student, and if you want to start from day one, thinking about EB2 NIW, thinking about EB1, what are the things that you need to do? Number one, you need to select the right courses. Then number two, you need to work with professors. Number three, you need to collaborate with peers. Number four, you need to market your own work. And number five, you need to establish yourself as an expert. So I've given you all of those step by step with assignments. Take a look at that, make a copy of that. You should be good to go. Okay. So that's what you can do to prepare yourself for EB1 foundational stuff. Now let's say that you have a PhD, you have things in your profile that through the grapevines you have heard could work toward NIW, could work toward EB1, but you don't know how to position yourself. You don't know how to have a conversation with a lawyer. So that's what we are going to have a conversation right now. Okay. I'm going to drop another link over here. Again, I'm going to give you all these resources to Watsani, and he's going to package it up well and give it to you. So I've created this document for you. Again, take a look at that, and you're going to understand where I'm coming from. I'm going to give you an overview of this. I'll talk for the next 15 minutes, and then I'm going to open it up for questions so that I can answer those questions for you. So go ahead and download this one. You will see two things over here. The first one is 50 law firm EB1 resources. Like I said, I'm not a lawyer, right? The best place to understand what are the legal requirements of EB1 criteria, those 10 criteria that you have seen in USCIS, what is the legal requirement? What does it mean in plain language? Lawyers have done the work for you. So I have collected 50 law firm resources and I've put it all over here. You don't have to look any further. Read a couple of them. You're kind of going to get an idea of what EB1 is. Cool. But that's just one part of the story. The other part of the story is, I don't know about you, But when I came to a PhD program, I wanted to talk to my seniors to understand, hey, how do I do this thing? What is a dissertation? How do I write a paper? How do I do literature review? Like, I wanted to see some examples. So to see those examples, like what are some of the cases that get approved in EB1? What are the criteria that these folks apply for? What are the evidences that they show? So I've collected a list of 30 people, 30 to 32, I want to say, who have received their EB1s, and I have listed all those profiles over here. So if I were you, I would look at what these positions are, like who are they? This is my profile, you can see. Like, which are the criteria that I applied for, right? What are the evidences that I showed? Out of all of the criteria, which are the criteria that people apply for the most? What is the most common type of evidence? And you take this information and you map it onto the profile that you have. So for example, for all the PhDs in the house, again, good news for you, USCIS understands PhD profiles more than they understand profiles like cybersecurity, senior engineer. So you have that going on for yourself. So for PhDs, out of all the criteria that you have, there are truly 3 criteria that you need to focus on. And you should be good to go. Number 1 is something that all PhDs do anyway. This is the one. That is authorship of scholarly articles. Now, for all the PhDs over here, have you written at least one peer-reviewed article? Do you have at least one publication? Okay, great. Okay, so you have things in your profile already. Okay, so I'll tell you what do you have so that you can feel a little bit more confident. Okay, that okay, they are asking for evidence of your authorship of scholarly articles or major trade publications or other media. So you have that. Okay, doesn't matter if you're first author or the 15th author, you have it. You have peer-reviewed articles. Number 2, have you, your work is peer-reviewed, but have you reviewed any other paper? Have you reviewed papers for journals and conferences? Great. That's the second criteria. That is, you have been asked to judge the work of others either individually or a panel. If you haven't, this is a great time for you to keep that as a to-do list. That, hey, I have published in this journal. I can email the editor of that journal and ask them, hey, if you have any articles that are coming out, I would be happy to review. Right? So evidence, you have been asked to judge the work of others in a conference, in a respectable journal, etc. Okay, great. So you have this, and now you have this. Great. 2 criteria, you have things. Whether you have satisfied them or not is a separate story. I'm just showing you the first level, that you have things that you can work off of. Third one, these are the 3 things. That's it. You just have to focus on these 3 because these 3 are your core criteria. So evidence of your original scientific, scholarly, or business-related contributions. A lot of times people will confuse this with this, or they don't understand what is the difference between this and this. What this is saying is, hey, you have published articles, but has anybody used your work? How many times do we write articles and nobody cites our work? Has that happened to you, or is it just me? Like you write an article and like you go to Google Scholar and then 0 citations. It's happened, right? But what USCIS wants to see in this is, have other people used your work? Now, in the community that we have over here, out of 179 people, how many of you have a citation count of at least 5 in Google Scholar? At least 5. Okay, great. So you have evidence for this as well. Now, whether it's going to be enough or not is a separate story. But these are your 3 core criteria. This is the crux of every PhD profile that gets approved in USCIS. So I'm going to share, I run this channel, the Slack channel where I started it with 0. The way this channel started was I got my EB1 and I shared my story, and a lot of people started reaching out, just like you, to ask me answers. So what I did was I put them all together in a Slack community and I started answering their questions there. So that Slack community has grown from 0 to 6,698 today. So somebody just got their EB1 approved. So just like you, Ami too came to the US as a postdoc. She says over here that I came to the US 2 years ago, and at that time, when somebody asked me, do you have an approved I-140? I-140 is just a green card application, EB1, EB2, and IW. She said that it felt like a huge unachievable goal, but now I have it. Now, remember how I told you need those 3 criteria? Look at what she says over here. I applied for 3 criteria. Scholarly publications, 9 publications with 7 first author research articles, 1 patent, original contribution of major significance, 430 citations, cited by researchers across 40 countries, and judging reviewed 50 scientific papers. Seeing this, I don't want you to say I already have an EB1 ready profile, but on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I don't have anything, to 10 being I have everything that this person has, where would you put yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? What score would you give yourself? 1 being, I have nothing. 10 being, my profile is ready. Where would you put yourself? Based on the 3 criteria that we just talked about and a profile like this. Perfect. All right. So I want you to know that you have something in your profile. Now, things are easier said than done in the world of EB1. Okay. Now, what happens is, and this is something that I have written in my LinkedIn as well, I'll give you that example too. And there are lawyer sessions that I have done where they say the same thing, but I'm going to give you an example so you can understand. Hold on. Okay. If you don't follow me on LinkedIn, you're welcome to follow. Okay, so I wrote this post yesterday. I said, you followed the same EB1 playbook as your friend. She got approved, you got denied. Let's solve this mystery. Because this happens a lot of times. For the same profile that I showed you for Ami Mehta, who came to the US as a postdoc, who's now an EB1 holder, you can have the same profile as Ami and you can still be denied. And you cannot play the card which says, oh, but my friend. Lawyers hate hearing that. Okay, lawyers will say, well, it really depends on who the officer was who was checking your petition, right? I'm going to talk about that as well. So you can see behind the scenes of USCIS what's happening. But as much as you feel hopeful, again, I'm saying this because I want you to have a realistic mindset. I want you to be optimistic, but I also want you to be realistic. Yes, for folks who say you have a 1, by the way, huge caveat, this is a track I'm talking about for researchers. If you are a software engineer and you're thinking that, oh my gosh, I don't have citations, please, this is not for you. This is only for people who are in academia, who have like traditional academic profiles. Those 3 criteria that I showed you, those are your core criteria. That is, you have been asked to judge the work of others, you have some citations, you have authorship. This is also something that you can apply for. I'm going to put another link over here. Again, I'm drowning you with links. Like, these are all things you have to do a little bit of work to understand, but I'm trying to give you the Cliff Notes version of this. So if you go to chapter 2, this is the abstract of EB1. You can think about this as the abstract, and this is the entire paper. where they're taking each of those criteria, that list of 10, and they are explaining what those criteria are. So remember how I told you that in this criteria, judging the work of others, peer review, citations, typically, your authorship, and this can also be used, evidence that your work has been displayed at artistic exhibitions or showcases. Now, what happened was when these criteria were being drafted, USCIS had a certain personality in their mind. So for folks who are more from the artistic background, this criteria makes sense to them. But for us, I'm not an artist. I wouldn't have artistic exhibitions. So does that mean I can never apply for this? No. That's where USCIS did something called comparable evidence. So if you look at comparable evidence over here, there is this area in chapter 6 part F, volume 6 part F chapter 2, but they're saying that, okay, this is the criteria. I don't match it completely, but this is a comparable evidence of that. So I don't have artistic exhibitions, but I have conference presentations where I have displayed my work to the public. So this is a good time to ask you, has anybody presented at a conference? Great. So all of a sudden, now you not only have 3 criteria, you have 4 criteria. Cool? However, this is where I was talking about how on paper, Ami Mehta's profile, who I just showed you, looks similar to yours. But it may not be approved still. Why? Because I cannot stress these 2 things enough. Number 1 is quality and completeness of your evidence. And number 2, the cohesiveness of your story. These are the 2 factors that's going to determine if a profile looks like the other person's profile, keeping everything else constant. The reason why yours may still be denied and others may still be approved, or others may still be denied, yours could be approved. Now, quality and completeness of evidence is where your EB1 petition is going to live and die. So for example, if you have presented at a local conference, or if you have presented at a conference like a 3rd international conference somewhere with a like IEEE conference, it's not a prestigious conference. It's not a conference that's making a lot of mark in the field, and you have 10 of them versus, I'm just going to take an example, Dr. Olufunke Adewumi presented at Davos. 1 conference, but that was Davos. You have 10 conferences, but that was not as impactful. So now he all of a sudden, with less evidences, less accomplishments, has more of a chance. So you always have to think about, okay, what is the quality of the evidence that I am presenting? Okay. Number 2, you have to demonstrate completeness of your evidence. I'll give you an example because we don't have too much time to go through it. I want to keep it open for questions, and then through questions, I'm going to answer more things. One of the things that was very unfortunate that plagued a lot of us is when we were going through our PhD program, we really didn't know that we would apply for EB1. So a lot of the things that we have done in our PhD program, we did not document it well. We did not collect proofs. So one of the persons that I was talking to, he has a PhD, he has over like 400 citations, he did like 70 peer reviews. But what happened was, he did all these 70 peer reviews when he was a PhD student. But do you get those emails after you have reviewed thanking you? Like they will send like, thank you for your feedback on this paper, etc. You get these feedback in your inbox. What he did was, after he reviewed these papers, because he was cleaning up his inbox, he deleted all of those emails. Now, if you look at the fine print of USCIS, when it comes to judging, right? Judging, judging the work of others. You have to show that you have completed the judging. Now, this guy who had completed so many peer reviews, he deleted that evidence. So even if he did that work, he didn't have any proof to show. So that's why I always mention that it's the quality of your evidence. Do you have high quality evidences? Is it complete? And then number 3 is, how does it all tie together? Right? How does one part of your profile connect with another part of your profile? Okay, so it's not just about Samuel D. Duval has 70 publications, 430 citations, 20 peer reviews. But what is the story behind that? Like, what is the story behind that? What is he actually known for? Because your peer reviews, your articles, your citations are a reflection of the core competence that you have. So if that story is not clear, if everything does not connect to that central thesis, then does not matter how many heaps of accomplishments you have, it's not going to fly. So I want you to keep that in mind. And cohesiveness of your story is where a good lawyer can help you. Okay. If you want to know more, I always do these events. It's for free. I'm doing one tomorrow. Come and talk to this person. I'm going to put the link in the chat. It's at 12 p.m. Eastern time. The person who I am bringing on board tomorrow, it's a free event. Come join. It is somebody called a legal writer. And what she does is, when you work with an immigration attorney on your EB1 case, the immigration attorney is going to analyze your case, but it's going to be written by other people. So this person, Luciana Salas Lobato, she is one of those people who is going to write your case. Now, when a legal writer is writing your case, I'm going to show you how they are going to draft it. Okay. This is just an example. You don't have to like follow this, but this is to give you a flavor of what it actually looks like. So let me show that to you really quickly. So this is one of the petitions. You can see it, right? This is one of my friends who got his NIW and his EB1 approved. So for example, yes. So they are talking about how everybody is relying on his work. So he says, not only has Dr. Swami successfully completed and published the results of his research in the field, but his research has gone on to influence his peers. That is, Dr. Swami's publication has been cited a total of 133 times, according to Google Scholar. Then they are going to review your case. Upon reviewing Dr. Swami's citation record, it is clear, yada, yada, and then they're explaining. You see where I'm going with this? It's not about having those numbers, but it's telling the story behind it. That, okay, this is how his work is influencing the field. This is how everything is tying together. So this is something that comes in when I'm talking about the cohesiveness of your story. There are petitions that are publicly available that you can read. I can drop that link over here as well, Ultimate EB1 Guide. Yeah, so if you look at this guy's link that he has collected all the EB1 petitions together, if you scroll down that list, you're going to find this person called Razvan Marinescu. He was a PhD. He applied for his EB1 by himself, did not use a lawyer, but this is how he wrote up his petition. So you can read some of these petitions and get an idea how an EB1 story is drafted. And the last thing, this is where I'll end with everything. It is not about you at the end of the day. Yes, you are a gifted scholar. Yes, you have all these citations. Yes, you are the big bad man in your world. But when the US is deciding whether they are going to allow Grace Peter or Wadzani even, or Toye Solanke to come to the US as a permanent resident, you have to show to the US how your presence in the US is going to benefit the US. So that is a paragraph that you need to write. Think about the United States as a company. instead of a country, and it's going to make a lot of sense. And think about this as your interview to be in the company. Yes, you are a great scientist, you are a great researcher, but what is it that US is losing out on by not bringing you in as a permanent resident? You have to be able to articulate that value to the US, that hey, I did this work in Nigeria, my work has benefited Nigeria and the rest of the world. Imagine what's going to happen if I come to your country and do the same thing. You're going to be a leader in XYZ. This is how your national interests are going to be aligned to my work. So you need to tell that story to the US as well. So bottom line, number one, summarizing everything that I talked about till now, understand the difference between immigrant intent visas and non-immigrant intent visas. Number two, when you're applying for immigrant intent visas, understand the difference between EB2 NIW and EB1. Both are available to you, especially for folks who are born in Nigeria. Number three, you have to study the EB1 criteria. I've given you resources for that. Benchmark yourself. And number four, assess your profile based on three factors: completeness of your evidence, quality of your evidence, and cohesiveness of your narrative. And lastly, what is it that you're bringing to the US that US does not have already, that it's going to benefit by bringing you as a permanent resident through EB1 or EB2 NIW? That's all I had for you folks. Happy to take questions and answer your doubts.
At this juncture, I would be taking questions for Dr. Aditi Paul. We already have some that dropped their questions on the chat box, so I'll be calling on Uchenna Kingsley Okeke to ask his question, and then followed by...
Yeah, I've already sent the in all the resources to, I think, Wadzani, the email that I got from you before the talk. So I've already sent all the resources over there. So everybody should get that. Yeah, I sent it to info@academicenclave.org.
Okay, so thank you so much. I think I'm not seeing much questions on the chat, so I'll just use hands that have been raised here. So I can see Amarachi Kalu. Amarachi would go first, then followed by Linus Boami, and then Comfort Dachau, and then Vincent Akwensi. So these 4 questions for now, and then we call it a day. Because of time, we would only be able to take 4 questions: Amarachi Kalu, Linus Boami, Comfort Dachau, and Vincent Akwensi. So let's take the questions. Amarachi, over to you. Amarachi, you can unmute and ask your question. Okay. Seems
Hi. Good afternoon.
Okay, Amarachi. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Dr. Paul, for this insightful presentation. I just want to know if we talked about assessing pro bono from a university site and all of that to help this application process. I am I intend to seek a postdoc position.
I'm sorry.
In the US. I try to begin the process by at least working towards having because I have not been I have research papers that have been published, but I've not been a reviewer. So I have told myself I'm going to do that in the coming days and months. But I'm also asking, do we need to get all the information down before we start the whole application process, or we can make those inquiries from those lawyers to guide us and to guide me in knowing the right thing to do in my own area of research?
Okay. Again, I want you to be careful about your choices for immigration in the US. Again, I'm telling you this because I've talked to people, and the more you talk to people, the more stories you hear. So, for example, you said that you're going to come to the US as you are a postdoc, but you're thinking of coming to the US as a postdoc and then applying for your EB2 NIW or EB1. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay, great.
but I don't know whether that's the best process to take.
Right. When again, like I'm saying, it it's not just to come to the US. Coming to the US is okay. You've come to the US, you've made your way here. But it's again leaving the US and coming back, that's where people get messed up. So, for example, I'm talking about this person. He gave a talk about this as well. His name is Dani Alapattu. I'm going to give his link in the chat. So, what happened was with Denny, he came to the US as a postdoc, just like you. Like, he's coming to the US as a postdoc on an F1 visa, sorry, on a J1 visa. Then he had a family emergency for which he needed to leave the US. Amarachi, I'm going to put you on mute because I'm getting some feedback from you. Yeah. So he had to leave the US and come back to the US after the family emergency. But here's where things get messy, where he came to the US on a J1 visa, which is on immigrant intent. Then while he was here, he applied for his EB1 and he got his EB1 approved. Now, when you're getting your EB1 approved, you are showing immigrant intent. So when he left the US and tried to come back and get his visa stamped, his J1, because he was still waiting for his green card, the officer flagged him. They said, wait a minute, you came to the US on a J1, which is non-immigrant intent, but I see through your records that you have an approved I-140, so you lied because you are showing immigrant intent. So you want to be very careful of your choices, that if you are coming to the US on a J visa and then migrating to an EB1 or an EB2 NIW, it's very important for you to talk to a lawyer or a legal expert saying that, how does this impact my mobility inside and outside of the US? The last thing you want to do is get trapped in the US and there's something happens in the family and you cannot leave because this is going to happen to you. Am I making sense?
Very, very well.
Yes. So it's not a talent competition over here. These have serious implications on our lives, on our families, on our legal statuses. So you have to calibrate that. So I'm going to leave that conversation out of the picture. So understand what is the implication of your choices of going for these visas and how does that affect your mobility. Number two is, you're saying you are going to apply for these visas, but there are things that are to-dos in your profile that you're still working on. But when is a good time to engage a lawyer? Is that the question?
Yes.
Okay. So I have to answer it. If you're a PhD, you know that there's no straightforward answer. There are so many variables that you need to take care of. But I'll give you the lay of the land so you make the decision on your own. Now, for EB2 NIW and EB1, these are specialized visas. Now, because they're specialized visas, not every lawyer can handle them. So there are only a bucket full of lawyers that can handle EB2 NIW and EB1 visas. Now, for these folks, the supply is far less, like the demand is exponentially more than the supply. There are 5 lawyers and 500 people who want to apply. So if you don't immediately come off as a palatable client, then they are quick to say no to you because for them, they have 500 others who are waiting in line. So what I tell folks is you have to get your case ready before you get your case ready. So before you even go to a lawyer, you need to have your case ready. That's the reason why I'm bringing like the immigration legal writer tomorrow. You're again welcome to join and listen, right? Like nothing is going to strike. You're not going to get all your answers today. What I try to create is an ongoing stream of education. So you keep exposing yourself to different parts of this huge elephant that we are dealing with right now. So tomorrow you're going to probably hear the legal writer say that when you are onboarded as a client, there's still months of work that they are doing, trying to understand your profile, trying to understand what is it that you do, trying to convert it into simple language that the USCIS officer can understand, gather evidences, etc. So the more work you do on the front end to get all of that evidences, to do the foundational work, the faster the lawyer can move with you and the more likely they are going to say yes to you. So you want to do that foundational work and then go to the lawyer. There's some other side of it, other part of this to it as well. That, but what if I do work and it's completely off the mark? Do you want to get an early check-in to ensure that the work that you're about to do is truly the work that you should do? Then yeah, you can engage the lawyer previously as well, just to get a midpoint check that, okay, hey, I think these are the gaps. Am I in the right direction? Should I be working in this way? You can do that, and lawyers do a free assessment as well. But again, understand that you're going to get what you pay for. Free assessments are just that, free. So they may just give you generic advice and put you down a path where you're doing more work than you needed to begin with. So I'll keep those factors in mind.
And I don't know if I could just say something.
Thank you.
So
Thank you so much,
for
Dr.
the
Paul.
people
This
that are
helps
just
a lot.
asking a lot of those questions, I think the best thing I would strongly encourage you do, the Aditi Paul's LinkedIn has been dropped. I think I would say drop it, and her YouTube also. So please do well to follow and do well to really keep a check on what are the tips she do drops, and I think yeah, and the session holding tomorrow is strongly advised you do join. Just like what she rightly said, it's not a one-time hit discussion. It's an ongoing discussion. So please do well to follow those platforms. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, my LinkedIn is the best place to keep in touch so that, I keep hosting these events. As a matter of fact, next Sunday, I'm bringing on board an immigration lawyer himself who's going to give a talk. His name is Rohit Srinivasa. I have him in my calendar, not tomorrow, sorry, on the 18th of this month. This is the lawyer who's going to come and give a talk. Let me invent him. Hold on. Rohit Srinivasa, invent him. Yeah, this is he's a Beverly Hills based lawyer. He's going to come and give a talk. Again, it's free. Come and join and hear people. He's going to come on the 18th. So I'm going to announce it on my LinkedIn. Keep in touch with me over there, and I'll keep sharing these resources.
All right. So thank you so much, Dr. Paul.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be taking the next question from Comfort Dachau. Please, can you unmute and ask your question, Comfort?
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
We can hear
Okay.
you.
I'm Confidential from Uganda. I'm a
Nice to-
PhD student at
Yeah.
Kampala International University. So my own is not an immigration, but I have my research work I'm doing on genomics, and I'm looking for a laboratory somewhere, probably in the US, where they will be able to give me maybe a bench where I'll come and process my samples. Because here in Uganda, we don't have such laboratories that will assist people. Is there any idea or any link that could be helpful to me?
Yeah. The short answer is working backward from your research. So if you have cited any professor's work who are US based, I would go to your references section and look at look at researchers who you have cited, see if they are US based, identify them, go to their university profile, see, like take an assess what their lab is like, and email them and start a conversation. What I will tell you is US professors are extremely strapped for time. I'm going to mute Victor so that I don't get feedback. Yeah. So when you are reaching out to a professor, as a former professor myself, and that too, I was in a small university. I was in a teaching university. I was not even in a research university. In a teaching, when you are talking to professors who are really busy, who have like an H index of between 3 digits and like 10,000 citations, their plate is already full, right? You do not want to come across as somebody they have to babysit. You do not want to come across as somebody who is there just for their benefit. You always have to talk in their terms. So for example, if your goal or your agenda over here is, hey, I want to do this research, I don't have an infrastructure or a lab, I would like to use your infrastructure. Great, I have that infrastructure. I mean, I may not have that infrastructure, but what is in it for me? So you have to talk in the interest of that professor. You can say, hey, professor, I see that you're doing this genomic research in this area. I too am doing it over here. In fact, I'm expanding it to this area. I see that there could be a potential area of collaboration. What are your thoughts on that? So make it a win-win instead of coming from a position of, hey, I want this. Can I use your resources?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So the next question is from Vincent Aquensi. Please, can you unmute and ask your question?
Okay, thank you very much. As the name is mentioned, I'm Vincent Aquensi, a PhD mathematics education student. I've been yearning to have these international supervisory experiences, and I made inquiry of, they said they have what we call binational supervisories, but I actually don't know some of the schools that engage in those things. Is there anything like that? And if that is so, what's the way forward? And I also want to inquire about the 8 weeks data analysis project from our Honorable Secretary. Is the registration still ongoing? Thank you.
I don't think I got the question right. So you're saying there is a program, and how do I know if somebody participates in that? Is that what you asked?
Yes, I'm asking if you are aware of it, by national supervisions, where as I'm doing my PhD here in Ghana, in Ghana here, I can also have another supervisor in another university where I can, it can be fully funded, and I'll go to that school, and that I'll also go and be under that supervisor whilst working under him, and also being supervised by my supervisor here in Ghana.
I am not knowledgeable on that front. A good place to start is in US universities, they have something called Office of International Students and Scholars, OISS. Usually they go by that name, Office of International Students and Scholars. You could inquire from them. But I am unsure if there is a hub where you can find this and inquire. It could depend from university to university. It could depend on their infrastructure. There's somebody called DSO, Designated School Officer. This is the person within the School of Office of International Students and Scholars who's going to do your paperwork, who's going to do the F1 visa, O1 visa, J1 visa, like all those stuff. So I would start there.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. I would be calling on Professor Obanishola Sodiq for the vote of thanks and closing remarks.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Prof. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, moderator. I'm highly honored to give the vote of thanks on behalf of the academic and grant writing enclave, and also on behalf of all participants in this webinar. I hereby thank and appreciate our guest speaker of today, Dr. Aditi Paul from Michigan State University, New York, in the United States of America, for the well-delivered lecture of today with the topic Roadmap for EB1 Success for African Academics. The lecture is well impactful, interactive, informative, and very well delivered by our guest lecturer. And I'm certain every participant enjoyed the lecture. The lecture is very apt in view of the current immigration situation in the US with respect to African continent, African scholars. So it's a very interesting one indeed. So I would like to thank our lecturer, our guest lecturer, Dr. Aditi Paul, for this informative, impactful, inciting, and interesting lecture. Now I know what is EB1, EB2, NWI, and all that stuff. Thank you very much, Dr. Aditi Paul. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very richly in Jesus' name. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, I should give it up to everybody on the call. Thank you, Wadzani. Thank you, Dr. Obanishola. Thank you, Grace, for organizing this. Look, the first step of everything is awareness. I wish there is some sort of module when I would get in grade 10 about US immigration. Life would have been a lot easier. Whatever I shared with you today have been lessons that have come from a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And I'm not going to promise that your journey is going to be any easy. It's still going to be hard. But if it's 5% less challenging, then my work here is done. So that's what I leave you with. You're incredible.
Okay.
He's doing the good work, and US will be lucky to have you. If they miss out, then it's a problem.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care,
Thank you.
folks. Great job. Bye.